Monday, March 19th, fiscal 19 budget workshop. It is now 6:03 p.m.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messia?
Here.
Councilman Padula?
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There's a quorum on record.
Ernie?
Yes. Yes, good evening. The proposed budget for FY19 is $97,109,576. Of that amount, $56,712,996 has been allocated to support our school system, and $40,396,780 has been allocated to fund municipal services. The proposed budget overall expenditure increase is $2,146,595, or 2.26% over the FY18 adopted budget. This is a current services budget. To support the spending plan, an increase in the property tax levy of 3.94% will be necessary. This equals about a 3.5 tax rate increase. A collection rate of 96.8 is assumed. For the fiscal year beginning July 1st of 2018, motor vehicle values have been taken out of the property tax levy. The motor vehicle values minus the exemptions is the new value that we'll use to assist in calculating the overall property tax amount. So it was taken out of the tax levy. And we'll discuss more of this when we get into the revenues, but that will have an effect on the overall revenues to the town. With the state reimbursement, we'll be going up to a $2,000 exemption. There will be an increase in state aid for the motor vehicle phase-out. But that will have an effect on the levy, because this is the first year motor vehicle taxes have been taken out of the levy calculation. But we'll be talking about more of that as we get into revenues. In developing this year's budget, we took you start at looking at the 2018 budget. That's your starting point. As you are aware, a corrective action plan needed to be developed as a result of some unrealistic budget estimates, expense items being under budgeted or not being budgeted at all. As a result, there is a structural deficit that needed to be corrected before one additional dollar was raised. On the revenue side, for example, there were prior year tax estimates of $2.2 million this year, $2.4 million in 17. The average, 3-year average, is about $1.7 million. So that's what we had budgeted for the upcoming year, to be more reflective of what the 3-year average was. We also have some expenditure increases that we have talked about before. Overtime has been budgeted this year at the 3-year averages, which are substantially more, about $400,000 more than what was budgeted in 18. And some simple things such as liability insurance, workers' comp. About $206,000 was necessary just to bring it up to what it is in 18 before we even factor in the increase for the 2019 budget. And these practices occurred over many cycles, and this budget corrects those past practices. And one of my goals coming in was to prepare a balanced budget that was based upon the best information we have for revenues and expenses, and we have done that. So tonight we start on the first of our 2 departmental budget hearings, to be followed by 2 public hearings in April. So over you.
Thank you. I guess we can go right in order. Senior Center. Manny? Which is... page 29 on the budget.
I know, but I can't read them either. There's no page numbers.
On the bottom.
Yeah, no, they didn't photocopy. They didn't photocopy on ours.
Oh.
Take mine.
Here, take the double-sided one. This one works
Mine
back.
has numbers on the bottom.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'll get another one. That's all right. I'll find
Does
it.
somebody else want to know? I got another one. What numbers?
Yeah,
You want it?
yeah, please.
It'll make it easier.
Good long night.
It's pretty cut and dry,
9
Manny.
o'clock.
You're at 213,000. Last year was 213,000. Give us an idea what's going on at the senior center.
So I did give you a breakdown of some statistics that we do. This is for January 1st, 2017 to December 31st. In it, I report to you our transportation program, which is a free transportation program for seniors in the town of West Warwick to go to and from the senior center. We also do a shopping trip, nighttime activities, we do an evening meal, the bingo, classes that we have. For senior social services, these are calls brought in or visits that we've had or consumers that do come into the center looking for help with Medicare and the like. So we have senior resource specialists, our senior health insurance plan, home visits, and again, you'll see the numbers that we do, they're all tracked.
This one's mine.
Our meal site, our health, the health clinic, health education, blue chip prescription assistance, medical equipment. Again, all the numbers are there. I'm not gonna, so you all have it in front of you. Our
This page
education
is
classes,
missing
our
on
URI outreach, and our classes that we do have. And then under the human service side, all the things that we do with human services. Rental assistance, emergency food, emergency shelter, community service. We help families with furniture. We do the Thanksgiving program, the Christmas program. Those were some pretty hefty numbers. Toy distribution through Christmases, fuel applications, fuel assistance, our summer camp for kids, our prescription assistance, and our free summer art program for children. Shows our volunteer hours,
I thought I shut this off, sorry.
and also our foster grandparent program, which is a part of the senior center. And after that, shows you all the organizations we coordinate with. Pretty busy building, day and night. We sponsor 2 soup kitchens, one on Saturday through St. Vincent de Paul Society, the other one on Sunday through Be the Change. Proud to say that we're gonna have May 17th, and you'll all get an invitation to our senior prom. These are seniors who are gonna come. Everybody gets dressed up. We have General Centracchio has his band there. We have beer and wine. We have corsages for the women. We take professional photos of them. It's like when they went to their prom. But what we find out is seniors in their,
Are you the king?
no. Seniors have, a lot of seniors never went to their senior prom. Either they went off to war, they had to quit school to go to work. In those days, if a girl didn't get asked to the prom, she didn't go. So a lot of seniors, they really enjoy this, and it's free.
It's right at the senior center?
They're right at the senior center. And again, I will extend an invitation to all of you.
It's a good idea.
Any questions for Manny?
Manny, again, you know how I feel about the senior center, and how you kept this budget so low, and I say it time and time again when I call you with families that are hitting it tough. You have never refused, and I know other council members have called you, and I just don't know how you do it with so little, but you're doing a great job, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Police Department 22. Chief? Before the chief gets started, I just want to point out, earning and C salaries up. Can you explain that?
Yes, for this budget proposal, we're recommending, well, we put in the arbitration award for the police department. You know, it's still being resolved, but it is something that is due and payable at the present time, so that has been included in the police department wages. So that arbitration award is reflective here.
So I just want to make that clear. I think the council's aware, the chief's aware. The police department did go to arbitration. They did win, and the council decided to appeal. That is, they were awarded a 2.75% increase in pay, in salaries. So just want to make that clear. Chief?
Plus, has this been figured out with all the promotions, how much of a raise they received also during the time of promotions?
Individually, no. This is just the collective aggregate number for 2.75 based upon the salaries for each
Overall
officer.
salaries.
Okay.
Chief?
So, I mean, basically, that's our breakdown. It's obviously associated with support and operations of the department. As you know, we're tasked with enforcing state laws, local ordinances, traffic safety, enforcement, criminal investigations, physical plant, communication services, and maintenance. We all have our staffing that has not changed, and that's across the board from our staffing, our civilians, our dispatches, the maintenance, and also the animal shelter is still part of our budget.
Chief, your overtime goes, last year we adopted 650. This year you got 864 in there. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. So just looking at the last 3 years plus 7 months of 2018, I did a 4-year average. I took the 7 months and then averaged what it was per month, got that to 12. And the total comes up to $864,000 average. So we've kind of maintained that right around the last 3 years plus, excuse me, 7 months into 2018. That was similar to the number last year, however, we did not increase that plan.
Chief, I have some questions
Sure.
on here. If you can, this may be a silly one, but I don't know the answer to this. What's the difference between a holiday and a civilian holiday?
Okay, so we have civilian employees, so just to break it down, we have 52 sworn members. So when you see holidays,
Yep.
that'll be for the police, that's the sworn members of the department. And then if you look at the civilian holiday, then that breaks down to our civilian employees, which we have our dispatch, animal control, secretary, administrative assistant, broken down to 14 non-sworn
Okay.
members.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I keep going?
Yep.
With-
Just going through line by
It,
line.
most of the questions I have tonight, I don't know if the department head can answer or Ernie can answer. I'm looking at basically the adopted FY18 and what each department head was given
All right, thank you.
and what actually was used up until January 31st. It may be an answer of we're going to use it because of the season, but something like wellness, where you were allotted $25,000, only $1,000 was used at this point. We're looking to add another $25,000 for FY19. Is that something that you're going to use?
Yeah, so what a lot of those items, so wellness would be one, longevity would be one. Sometimes our training would be one. They're only showing at the 7-month part now that we've only spent a certain amount. That's because wellness we do every year in May.
Okay,
So in May, that amount will decrease drastically.
yeah, I gotcha.
Same thing with longevity happens in November, so that's why longevity is almost all completely spent at this point. Make
Okay,
sense?
yes, it does.
Chief, just a quick question. Why is the SRO a separate line item and not
Okay.
part of general wages,
So
or salaries rather?
So right now,
School
the
department pays.
SRO, we
Do they
are
pay that?
reimbursed by the school.
They are,
department
okay, I just
because
wanted
of
to,
the- So that's
okay.
why they're separate.
okay, thank you.
And that's very similar with crossing guards as well.
An item I'd like to bring up, which is actually going to cross 3 departments. And I was going to wait until next week to do it, when I had more solid numbers, but I don't believe that the animal shelter should be under the police department.
Amen.
I'd like to, I think now it's, after hearing everything that's going on, with the whole situation with volunteers, I think it's become a burden for the police department. And I feel that the police department should be able to do the policing. I don't know when to bring it up, I'm just gonna bring it up now. One of the things I'd like to do is put a new position in the enterprise fund, which would be a facility manager position. And now, those facilities would include, and again, if it's not the right time and you'd like me to stop and wait, that's fine. But it would be the civic center, it would be the ice rink, and it would be the animal shelter as indoor facilities, with a knowledgeable, experienced facility manager to run all three of those indoor facilities. That means scheduling, complete with a clerk, keep the same staff that we have, but make it a true hierarchy so people can understand it, because right now it's pretty muddy. They'd also be in control of outdoor facilities, such as the parks, concession stands, pavilions, and they would have the Parks and Recreation foreman under them. And they would be, the facility manager would delegate down, but they could actually, it's like a puzzle.
You want to make a Parks and Rec manager, basically.
Well, I do, but I'm looking at more facilities. I'm not talking more recreation, I'm talking more of the park. Well, I guess, indoor recreation too. But that would take the burden off you. We keep if we wanted to keep the animal control in the budget, I don't know how that would work as far as keeping it in this budget for clarity, just spelling it out, but you wouldn't control it, you would have nothing to do with it.
So, we've had,
Does that make sense?
you're asking me, we work very well with the animal control people. In my opinion, it should be very similar to the buildings office. We have a function with them. When they need us to go serve summonses, we will assist them, just as we do with building. We've been maintaining them since I've been a police officer. It's certainly not a very good management practice. We've kind of done much better right now. I just don't have the people to
Right.
manage them. We have,
And we've had this
thank God,
discussion.
and I know the volunteers was a nightmare of a conversation, but I said from day one, we survived because of those volunteers.
Right.
And the assistance they provide to us. I mean, we didn't want to stop it. We had to for reasons that I can't speak about, but neither here nor there. I mean, that would be a great thing. I just don't know.
Chief, what
It's
union,
not your guys' fault.
what union is the dog officers under?
They fall under the municipal union.
So they are already there, so
Yes.
there's no union structure issue.
And in this position I'm looking at a salaried position. Again, changing it up a little bit, no pension. I'm looking at possible 401k, doing away from that pension for this position. Salary, it's salary, 40 hours a week, plus whatever needs to get done. I'm not looking in terms, when I looked at this, as union versus non-union. I'm looking at this as a position with people underneath.
Why couldn't you hire somebody that's already there as one of the officers there for that position? Is that a possibility too? I mean, I know you're saying for the three of them. I mean,
Well, they might be I understand what Jay's saying here. So what he wants to do is have somebody who's in charge. So let's say you promote somebody down there as dog officer to that facilities person. They might only be responsible for that facility. That's the only thing they can run.
Right, I'm
He's looking
looking
for
at-
somebody who's gonna be responsible for
I understand.
those two facilities, that facility, plus Parks and
Somebody
Rec.
knows how to manage. You don't have to know a thing about an animal or a basketball.
Let me
You
go
just-
one
you
step,
need to know how to manage.
one step further. Maybe I got lost in last year's budget, but I'm looking through. Did the overtime stop with the police department, chief, where on Saturdays and Sundays you had captains, sergeants, majors at $75 an hour minimum, 4 hours a time that they went to go clean up the dog pound?
No.
That ended then, right?
Yeah, we
Did
never.
we stop that?
We never had that.
I just wanted to,
So what would happen was, we had two animal control officers for a long period of time. Then we went to one, probably, I think we've about 2.5 years now. 2 years we've had a second. We had a part-timer prior to that. So the police department never went down there to clean and feed. So when we had one animal control officer, obviously he or she would only work 5 days a week. So they would have to come in on their 2 days off, because we have animals down there, they have to be fed and clean. So they would do that, and if they were not available, then it would go through the municipal union. There were 3, I wanna say, municipal employees who had worked in the dog pound prior, the animal control shelter prior, and they would be offered to go do the cleaning and feeding when the animal control officer was not available. So it was never police officers going down.
Well, it was at one time. It wasn't too many years ago.
Not when I was in administration,
No.
I don't recall that. I know it was never offered to me as overtime. When I was a patrol officer or a captain or a lieutenant, I don't recall that taking place.
I mean, once in a while, they would go down and have to open up for residents or whoever if their dog's in
We
there.
always do that, we still do that.
Yep.
So if we.
But you do that with an on-duty patrolman,
Correct,
yes.
right. So if we have, right now, there's no animal control officer on duty. If a person had found a stray dog or we went to pick up a stray dog, we would go down, our officer, if we could get it, if it wasn't a hassle. Or sometimes the citizens will go meet us down at the animal shelter. And we will go in, place that animal in a particular cage, feed it, give it water, leave a note for the animal control officer that this was picked up here and what have you.
Any other questions for the chief? So chief, basically from 2018 to 2019, you're looking at $222,000 increase, and a lot of that has to do with the 2.75% raises, correct?
That's a portion of it, absolutely.
Majority.
Overtime.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. Fire department.
What page?
Sorry, I was answering the text for that 911 meeting I'm supposed to be at too.
Hey, chief.
Steve. All right. Before you is my 2018-2019 budget. There have been some changes on some line items. Not many. Most of the line items have pretty much stayed level funded from the previous year. Some may show more, a couple may show more and one less because we moved some expenses from one department to another department under their flag. But any questions?
Yeah, Joe, what's, SCBA meters maintenance? What's
That's
that?
our self-contained breathing apparatus
All right.
slash meters, all our meters. It's all under one heading. That's for all our mainly maintenance agreements.
And I also see the hydrants.
Yes, sir.
Now, my recollection is that is being challenged because Kent County Water does not own the hydrants.
I haven't heard anything back on that.
So, Councilman Padula, we have paid it up to date. That was what came in late last year. We've been advised to continue paying while it's in litigation, or at least budgeting it, because as of right now, we're still responsible for paying for it while that's in litigation. So once the litigation's over, the worst thing you wanna do is take it out of the budget and find out we need $500,000 to cover it. So right now, it's in there. We don't know where we stand with litigation. We can get an update on that, because who's running that litigation?
Well, we joined forces with Coventry, and I haven't heard anything about it.
Ernie, if you can try to get an update on that. But again, the worst thing to do is take it out of the budget and then have to pay for it later. Because we learned that lesson last year where it was in the budget, but we were told not to, we didn't pay it, and all of a sudden they're sending us late fees and whatever else, and we ended up paying it anyway with late fees. So I'd advise to keep it in there for now.
And we were surprised with a increase 3/4 of the way through our fiscal budget. which we
Yeah,
can't
that's the
plan
other
for.
thing.
Chief, I have a question.
Yes.
In the line item of training,
Okay, let me just get to my page here. Okay.
it says, going by the numbers, 15 and 16 was just over $3,000 in training. And then in 17, it was 31,000. Then last year, we allocated 37,000. And right now, 14,000 has been used. Is that something where, again, it's seasonal and you're gonna be training, more training this spring?
I didn't realize back 15, 16, I thought we increased that further back. Only being 3,000. But we do our own, we're doing our own training in-house for new recruits,
Mhm.
professional development, EMT, research, all those trainings which were including overtime at the time. Now that we're going to the State Fire Academy, I'm budgeting those higher amounts because we have to pay
Okay.
so much to them and
Okay,
books and all that stuff.
thanks.
And that will, to answer your question, yes, that will fluctuate
From year to year?
from year to year.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief, the manning for police and fire are pretty close to the same.
We have not increased any manpower.
No, I'm saying police and fire are very close to the same as far as head count, by a couple.
I don't know that number.
So, well, I just did a count in my head about what you have here for staffing and what they have here for staffing.
Yes.
So the question I have, and, you know, it's been a question every year up here, and I'll be the devil's advocate, but, you know, police overtime, who's working 5 days a week, is $884, and majority, except for your fire marshals and, whatever, work 2 days a week, but your overtime is $300,000 more. Can
Well,
you,
we have a minimum man, which I believe the police chief has also on his patrol officers.
Mhm.
We have more firefighters on the line. We have 60 on the line. I don't know what his numbers are for patrolmen and officers and all that.
It's like 54, I believe, right?
so he's at
52.
52
sorry.
altogether, so you guys are very close, that's why I'm asking.
Correct, but we also have other divisions, fire prevention, fire alarm division, the 4 dispatchers,
Mhm.
myself and the 2, the clerk and my administrative assistant are in there. Now, as far as the overtime goes, we have a minimum manning of 15 per shift.
Yep.
And as you know, in 2008, the second rescue was put into service full-time. And at that time, additional manpower was not added to man that truck. So we had 15 per shift with a minimum of 13 at that time. In order to keep that rescue in service full-time, we had to shift that manpower. So we have every truck manned 15. Anybody goes on vacation, sick, military leave, injury, it's 1-for-1 callback.
How do we reduce the sick overtime? Last year, you were about $350,000 in sick overtime. Well, this year,
I don't know that number if Kristen has broke it down. I know my sick time this year is less than last year right now.
Joe, it just seems like, and I'm gonna say it, I think that, and I always said, minimum manning, you'll never stop overtime with minimum manning, so something has to drastically be done with minimum manning. Because it seems like they can hit social media on their weeks, on their days on, and they always have time to answer or make comments on social media while they're on duty.
Do you know that
So,
for a fact?
yes, I do, and I have the records for that also. So, you know, they wanna play politics, so that means that they jumped in the political arena. It's not the first time they've done it, and I'm not condemning you, have a great bunch of guys. And I'm not condemning for the few bad ones that, in my opinion, that you have. But I think they have too much time on their hands. 15 men per shift, I think is outrageous in an 8 square mile radius of our town. And minimum manning, if we don't stop minimum manning, we will never stop overtime. So no one on this council can fool themselves. As long as there's minimum manning, we're gonna have outrageous amounts of overtime. And to me, I'm not a professional at this, but I have some professional opinions and different facts. So I'm putting my 2 cents in now to bring that up for a later discussion.
Well, if I may, reasons for overtime start with vacation, sick leave, injury, training. Training includes education, school fillings, EMS updates, professional development. Fires, hazmat incidents, weather-related incidents, maintenance of our SCBA, because I do not have daytime people to do these ancillary duties. We have to hire overtime. A lot of calls are late runs, guys get back late from past their scheduled shift. Legal court appearances, union business, investigations, inspections during fires. Yes, of course, like I said, sick leave, and that is what creates overtime. Our operations as a fire department, the fire service has changed dramatically. We just don't go to fires anymore. We're an all hazard operation now. We're plumbers, electricians, maintenance people, inspectors, and the fire department must be capable of establishing the following functions at each structure fire. There's 22 tasks that have to be taken care of at a fire, and which needs manpower of 17 people to be at the fire for a single family home to complete the 22 tasks. We have incident command, we have to get water supply, attack lines, backup lines, search and rescue teams, ventilation team, rapid intervention crews, safety officer, of course, a battalion chief or a chief on the scene.
Is this all contractual, or is this state law?
This is a NFPA nationwide standard. We run two men under that
So how
standard.
much are we getting reimbursed from
We
them
don't
to
get
have the
reimbursed.
mandates?
This is what we have to run for safety of our own,
And
our
under
own,
whose,
our own members and our citizens of this town.
Chief, I want our men to be safe. I've showed up on some fires. South Street was one of them. There's a 2-family house over there. Angela, when I pull up to a fire, I can tell you there's nobody sitting around doing nothing. That I can honestly say.
nobody's saying during a fire.
No, I'm,
So,
you know, when they're on the road, I know the storms, it was constant going and going. I was sitting in Domino's down here in Phoenix, and I think I watched Engine 2 go by me 4 times in an hour and a half to calls.
with that particular day,
Yeah, that, I mean,
how many days didn't they go by you?
I'm not, Angela, I'm not gonna say they do and don't. You just,
All right, no,
you just
just
never
the
know when
point.
the emergency's gonna take
No,
place.
of course
either.
not.
You know, if I could predict every emergency, I'd be a millionaire, because I could probably stop a lot.
Listen, we have $1 million in
We are our
deficits, we have to
citizens'
start
insurance
somewhere.
company.
I understand.
Insurance policy.
You know, maybe we have too many fire stations in town, you know, where they don't
Well,
have to be
and
a
Angela,
block away from each other.
We've had this discussion over the
And
years.
you know what? You're gonna make tough decisions because
And-
right now, we're at our limits,
Angelo,
so.
I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying to you is, we've discussed closing a fire station, but that doesn't eliminate minimum manning in the contract, because now you're just gonna put more people at a different fire station.
What North Province did, if you remember the whole beef about 4 or 5 years ago, the mayor shut down a fire station. He did not cut manpower. He added 3 men to a truck, special hazards. They have 2 rescues like we do, a ladder truck and all, and their ISO rating is a number 1. We're a 5. So he is saving their citizens and their insurance rates for the commercial and residential with that alone. We'll never get to a 1 because we're not gonna add the manpower. NFPA 1710, states at 4-person minimum per truck. We have 2.
So Chief, just go back to that for a second. You said that North Providence shut down a fire station, moved that manpower to,
They did not cut any manpower.
they did not cut any manpower, but how did their rating go up because they put 3 people to
There's
a
big
truck?
points in manpower and response times. And this goes on, if you let me just finish
Yeah,
this
I'm sorry.
brief thing. The study clearly demonstrates that for safe, effective, and efficient fire suppression, each responding company needs a minimum of 4 firefighters. That's not gonna happen here, we all know that. So what I do, and my battalion chiefs do, with the manpower we have, sometimes we get criticized how many trucks are at a scene for a certain call. We're getting all our manpower available there. If our 2 rescues are out on a call, we're down to 11 people to respond to the other calls. And now with the new protocols with EMS, we're going to Miriam Hospital, Veterans, Hasbro. Our rescues are out of service longer than they ever been.
People can
Yes.
request where they want to go, is that correct?
And this council has said in the past, our citizens should go where they wanna go.
That's what they.
They
put.
should.
That's
They
why we
should.
put that second rescue.
I agree with that.
Unless the weather is not accommodating, we gotta get them to the closest hospital, or their health,
Mhm.
depending on their health. This is just a couple other things here. The first arriving in, just to give you an idea what the standards are, which keeps us out of liable situations. The first arriving engine must arrive within 4 minutes, 90% of the time. That's why the stations are where they are. That's why we have the trucks where they are. And we do maintain that. Some days get so hectic, we're having engine 2 from Phoenix respond up the Legend Way in the Crompton, in our ward.
Today
That's
they
a
were-
long, that's
Today
a
they
long-
were,
that's a
today they
long-
were on Cohasset Avenue, engine 2, 8 o'clock this morning.
Correct. So those are some of the standards as a chief I have to protect the town and my guys. OSHA in 1998 mandated 2 in, 2 out. What that means is if engine 1 pulls up on the scene here in Archibald and they're waiting, technically they can't go in that building until two other people arrive for their safety. But if somebody's hanging from the window, they're going in. But we could have issues with that if somebody got hurt. So those are the things we have to worry about out there. Like I said, the fire department responds to many things. Brush fires, just fires alone, dumpsters, autos, buildings, single family, multiple stories, water emergency, odor of gas, carbon monoxide, gas emergencies, lockouts, lock-ins, auto accidents, extrication, malfunctioning boilers, malfunctioning alarms, accidental alarms, electrical emergency, elevator, and so on. EMS, our guys are the ER doctors in the street nowadays with all the new EMS mandates. They are exposed to our guys are exposed to highly toxic smoking chemicals, exposures to heat, cold, sewage, some medical examples, TB, HIV, hepatitis, flu strains, AIDS, bacterial meningitis, to name a few. And a lot of those, which leads to 68% higher rate of type of cancers in firefighters. This is what we deal with on the department.
But Joe, thank you guys, and I thank, just like I thank doctors and other professions, that they choose to pick that profession and they know what it's going into. And I understand what you're saying, but that's a profession that someone chooses, and that's not for everyone. So I understand what you're saying there, but that's not important to the budget right now. Because you choose the
So by
profession
saying
you
that,
choose.
our citizens are not important either to get the
No,
service
they are,
deserve.
very important, that's why we have them. But I'm just saying, we all appreciate the jobs that the police do, the fire do, the doctors do, our municipal workers do, all that put aside. We have a deficit in this budget, and we have to find savings, not by raising taxes all the time. We have to find some comparable way to not let this happen, because.
Should the savings be at the public safety?
No, the savings shouldn't be at that, the savings shouldn't be on where your DPW guys shouldn't be on the road 32 hours at a time. So I know what we have to do, what we should do, and whatever you decide you think you should do, then that will come to the vote, and the last result would be at the financial town meeting.
The overtime does look like a lot. But if you add those 8 more people, and
Be a lot more.
reduce that overtime, it's more money for the.
Joe, we already went through that.
There's more money than 8 people is for the overtime.
Joe, you're not catching me on that one
I'm not
again.
catching
We
you
got
right.
caught
It's a
on that,
fact.
David,
It's a
you were
fact.
here. Put 9 guys on, the overtime will drop, the overtime increased. So, it's a proven fact, that putting more people on is not gonna stop the overtime. Minimum manning will stop the overtime.
Jay?
First of all, I don't think you can put a price on a life at all.
Thank you.
But
Wait, don't twist this around, where I'm against public safety for my
No, I'm
constituents
not,
and
not at
other
all.
constituents in this town. My concern is, are we getting the biggest buck out of our biggest bang out of our buck? Some of these contractuals, which we all know, contractual contracts are unsustainable. That's what I'm saying. I'm not putting anybody at harm's way, because believe me, when my father or my mother, we have I have the utmost respect for our police and fire. But now we're talking money.
right, I agree. I agree.
So
And that's
I
why-
just don't want anybody to twist around. Ask me, I'll tell you what I mean. I don't need anybody answering my questions or answering for me. I call a spade, not a diamond when it's a spade.
My question is on the overtime, is that seems to be the real issue, is because it is such a big number. How can we, is there any other way besides hiring more men to cut down on this overtime?
You have to go into negotiations.
It's the only other way.
Of course.
And there's
All right.
really not a lot there, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm not negotiating for the guys, but I see their contract compared to other contracts throughout the state. They're getting bargained. Granted, some things could be tweaked other than that.
One last question I have, and we're in arbitration with the fire department also for pay increases, and I know you're negotiating that back and forth right now. I don't see that in the budget, so do you have somewhere in the budget in case that does happen?
Yes. It is in the general government portion of the budget. There's a line item called fund balance. That's where anticipated, funds for any type of negotiated settlements would be. So that's going to be discussed next week, but
So that's
But,
accounted
well, we
for,
do have
that's
funds-
accounted for then?
yes, we do have funds for that in this budget. Correct.
Is, now with that, when that increases, that increases the pay rate will increase. But the overtime will also increase and be a greater number than this, correct?
Well, well, the overtime is based upon their rate, and if there is an increase, then the overtime would increase as well.
Is
the
that
percentage.
factored in as well? In next week's?
And with that being said, is it factored in the police department also, which I imagine it is because it is going up?
Yes.
But is that overtime
It's not
factored
factored.
right here in this
No,
11?
oh, no, this
one,
is,
no,
this
because
is
the
as
bu-
it is
I can
now.
tell you right now that the pay increases, if there is any, are not in the budget itself, so I don't think
Which
line-
section is it in? I
Okay.
know it's next week, but just so we can take a quick look, which,
general government, page 17.
Page 17 at the very bottom of the page.
425,000.
Yes.
so that's all for, what other things are considered, other than the possible, 2.7?
That's it.
That's what the fund
For-
balance is.
for-
That's all of that. That includes the overtime, that includes the raise, just for the
That
fire
includes
department.
overtime
No,
as well?
no, for,
What's that number? What does that number mean? I think it was he's trying to
right,
ask.
for all unions. It's for all it's for all municipal unions and the few non-union people.
Okay.
Now, And Chief, I know this is your budget, but I just wanna ask something on 17. We're talking about police and fire arbitration and possible wins in court. I mean, let's face it, the police already won theirs 2.75, retro to last year. Fire, we're in negotiations. We're trying to work out those negotiations to not be retro.
Correct.
Where do we stand with municipal? Are we even talking to them yet?
The discussions with municipal will be for the FY19 budget, nothing for 18. So those have not started yet.
Okay. And one of the reasons, why didn't they go to arbitration? Could they go to arbitration?
For this year or for last year?
Well, police and fire went to arbitration. Why didn't municipal?
Well, police and fire have arbitration as part of their statute as far as resolving those. I don't believe that the municipal does not have a binding arbitration for their awards. It has to be negotiated. Had to be negotiated. Correct.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Chief, this is, I know, I'm gonna announce it tomorrow night, but this is your last budget. We weren't gonna let you get off that easy.
Yes, it is. Just for the record, I know there was some things out there a week or two ago. I had asked the manager and yourself not to mention it that night until I spoke with my people.
Yep.
To make that clear to somebody else.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
You're a great advocate for your department, Chief. They should miss you.
Chief, don't go far, because EMA is next.
Oh, you wanna do that now?
Yeah, it's next.
It's very, it's,
It's very simple. What page is that?
Page was that on?
15,
15?
15,
50?
15,
Somebody's gotta speak up.
15. I
About
will.
50
You
on this
think?
paper, so-
I was like, EMA, same budget as last year, $8,690.
that is correct, and Sean Henry, our assistant here, the last couple of years has gotten $4,450 back from the state on a grant. Help us out, so we keep the full amount in there just in case we don't get the grant.
Okay.
But it was already approved, Joe?
For the next fiscal year, not yet.
Any questions for the chief on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Department of Public Works,
24.
page 24. Make sure you speak clearly and loud. Freddie, this is your first budget, per se, as the interim director.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll bring the same comedic genius that your predecessor brought to the table.
I see a little increase in wages. What is that, longevity?
No, the general wages, that is wages from Nicole Knott. She wasn't in the budget last year. She actually came out of capital. So we found that mistake, and now she's gonna be coming out of our budget.
Overtime, how are we looking so far this year with the storms?
We're good so far.
Gonna be under budget?
Yeah.
Got one more storm this week.
Hopefully.
Got one more storm this week.
No, no more storms,
Maybe we'll get
please.
lucky.
Let's-
No, they're talking 6 to 10
I
now.
heard that,
No.
but,
Yeah.
no, 6 to
Really?
10?
No.
And then more Sunday.
Really?
Well, if you want, let's cancel that storm, Freddie. 6 to 10, huh?
Any questions for Freddie on this?
Freddie, it looks like the contract for the rubbish in 15, when it was 702,000, it jumped up to 1.287, 1,287,542 dollars. So we have an increase from 2015 to 2019 of over $500,000. Just like when I brought the experts in before we decided to go private, that this was gonna happen.
Yeah,
So you're already $500,000 over in 3 years, which
We've added a couple
no
of
one
things
on
to
that
though.
council,
We've added a couple of things to that contract though, Angela. Bulk pickup was one of them.
bulk pickup's not a contract.
That- this
It's
is
not in the
right.
contract.
But
That's
that's
separate.
part of this fee here.
No, that's
No.
separate.
Where-
That's not part of that.
Show me where it is on here, Freddie.
That,
it's not even on here.
that comes out of, yeah, it comes out of rubbish.
Rubbish contract, it's added in.
Is that added in?
Yes, it is.
Oh, you added into that?
So
How much-
everything,
how much
everything
was
extra,
that?
well, this is what I argued about last year at this budget time.
But.
Hold on, and I totally disagreed with Dave on this, because when we have to call in Mega to do a bulk pickup or a special pickup, we're paying $1,000 every time.
Per,
over.
Exactly.
per truck, per truck.
Per truck.
Per truck.
It's twice a month.
And I
And how
said,
many
why,
trucks?
why aren't we having our employees doing the bulk pickup here?
It's never two.
Put down the note, because when it comes time for the cuts,
So can I ask a question? How long is the contract with Mega for? Like,
We have 2 more years.
2 more years in this contract?
Well, again, in 2015, when we started this contract, was 700,000. And it does have a clause in there of, I think, or 3 or 5%, 3% increase every year, which isn't a bad expense. But then we've added things to it. First of all, we've added more pickups, we've added bulk pickup, we've added a lot of other
'Cause then
things.
we've talked in the past about having our guys do the bulk pickup. Is that an option? Is that a cheaper option? Is it not?
Well, it all depends how you look at it. You
I
know,
would like
it's-
to take it over.
I personally think it is a savings.
Well, because it wouldn't be so stringent
just
as
put
far
it
as
this
when we
way.
wanted to do it either,
So
right?
you would have more control.
Let-
over-
Correct.
There's 2 big things on this. First of all, us as council people up here have gotten calls about mattresses on the street, this, that, and other things, okay?
We gotta wait 10 days.
Hold on. Now, we used to be able to just call up our DPW, say, take care of it, please, ASAP, and they would take care of it. Well, now it's not under their responsibility. Why would they want to take care of it? Personally, they want to teach us a lesson. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be open and honest. They want to teach us a lesson. You went private, let them deal with it. Now, if you take $1,050 per each truck, Freddie, on overtime, what's an average person make?
On overtime, probably like around $32.
$32.
4
You
hours.
put that, 4 guys on, 2 in each truck, on a Saturday, you're still under about $400 every weekend. And you could do bulk pickup every weekend and still be under budget, under that.
Is the bulk pickup part of the contract? I know it's in the contract item on the.
added.
We added.
It's added, it's actually not in their contract.
So that means we could cancel that at that part of it. We could switch to our guys at any point we want to do. That's what I want to clarify.
So could we do this? What if we continued bulk pickup and we just do it on shift? We choose a day, we choose.
mean with our guys?
With our guys, and we say,
Do we have the
If-
manpower is the question.
that may be a scheduling thing, but, I mean, that's gonna be your,
So you
How
your
many additional
job.
hours would it be, like per week?
Well, personally,
I don't know what the average would be.
You said week. You said even if we did it weekly with our guys,
I'll
every
be
week
honest
it would
with
be
you.
cheaper, right?
I'll be honest, here's my opinion. You have Nicole not there, okay? If we had a crew, a 2-man crew, scheduled for bulk pickup every day.
Yeah,
Every day. First of all, it keeps the town clean. Second of all, Nicole gets the call saying, hey, I got a jackpot out here. And trust me, I don't want to get back into jackpots where we're cleaning up apartment complexes every weekend. 'Cause
Well, that's
that-
where,
that
David,
was-
we
that
did
was an
that,
issue.
listen. The landlords, I know, I own 16 apartment houses, the landlords get a damage deposit, their property is lien.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the jackpot
We're gonna
stuff.
get reimbursed for that, so that don't matter.
So, in my opinion, and I fought this last year with Dave Lombari, was if we had 2 guys on this duty and they call up and we call up, the town calls up, the building official calls up and says, listen, we got a bunch of trash on Main Street, we need it picked up. these guys can get in the trucks that I have down there and clean it up right away. We don't have to wait for Mega 3 weeks out. We don't have to wait for every other Saturday. We don't have to wait for the building official to do her due diligence and go write a letter and say, you know, you can write that letter, find them
Still gonna leave it a mess.
immediately,
Still gonna
So-
leave it a mess.
and
You're
pick
still
it
gonna
up.
lien on the property.
Yeah.
You can still do that and pick it
So-
up.
First, yeah.
Financially
Eventually.
financial wise, if we were to go that route, then we would need to
I can
open,
tell you right now, if we hired 2 more people in DPW at their rate of pay right now in a truck, it's gonna be a lot cheaper than $500,000.
Can we get the
Per
exact,
year.
I mean, if we don't, maybe we don't have it now, can we get the number of how much we pay a year in bulk pickups?
We only added 58,000.
Yeah.
How much?
58,000.
It's per
You only
year?
added that?
That's all was added.
Wait, that's what's added.
Contract.
That's unrealistic.
This is the contract amount.
That's with the second pickup though? That
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
include with
That's
the first.
That's a 2 pickup.
58,000 is for the additional pickup, so that's 12 pickups then.
How many trucks come a week, or every other week?
Sometimes 2, but at least 1.
So it doesn't add up. If 2 trucks come 50% of the time,
He
at
didn't say that.
$2,000.
He didn't say 50% though.
No, I'm saying, I'm giving it, I'm cutting it back.
Okay.
Your math doesn't add up. So $1,000 a week, or every other week.
It's only 52,
That's
right?
That's 52.
If you
but-
win 1,000 a week.
No, at 26, at 2 every, because they do it every other week, twice a month, right?
So it comes to 52.
52.
Oh, yeah.
But then when you call them for these bulk,
It's 1,050 every time they come
every
out.
time you come out. So if you, so don't add that up too, because there's times we call them, instead of having our guys clean it up, we call them to come get it, and they're charging us $1,050 every single
Yeah,
time.
but so how are we 500,000 over on it?
Well, you gotta take the 3% increase.
And they also,
Don't reach.
No, don't.
all the bins,
3% would be 21.
Oh, wait a minute, the bins are on
Yeah.
that too.
all the bins.
Angela, the
now
bins,
are
we're not
back.
paid off
And-
on the bins yet.
and we
Eventually
weren't-
that will go
The
back
last
down.
3 years, we weren't paying on the bins, now we, all of a sudden, they started, because I had a long conversation with Ernie and Kristen about this. All the numbers didn't add up, we were paying the bills monthly, we were paying, $93,000 a month just for, trash pickup. And we were trying to add them up from the contract, during budget time, nothing was adding up, we added in the bins. So we, I contacted Mega, and they weren't actually charging us for the bins for the last 3 years. So then we got a bill for $54,000, and then another one for $41,000 for the last 2 years.
How much would have been, I got it written down in here, some,
$1 million over 5 years,
it was $1 million we had to pay for the bins in 5 years?
$214,000 a year.
So that adds up now, Angela, with the, if you would take the 200, the 258, and then you take the 3% increase over the 4 or 5 years, it will be close to that. It'll be close to that 900,000.
we're not paying 3% increase on the bins, are we?
No,
No.
3% on the contract.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, just for the members who aren't here, the trucks at the time that Dave Lombari proposed were well over $2 million for the new trucks that we needed. And at that time, it was fiscal, and we had eight people on the trash at the time. Was it 8?
2, 3, 6, 9,
12.
12, yeah.
12 men to the,
Could we
to the force.
Ernie, could you send me the contract? Because I don't know if Jay's seen it or John has seen the contract with it, just so I could look it over. Could you?
I think it's
Sure.
online also, but we can get that for
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
So we had, at that time, we had 12 people on the trucks, plus the trucks. You know, it was just, and we had a lot of on-the-job injuries, OJIs. So it was brought to us and to make an ultimate decision.
I want to say it is a good thing that people are, I mean, I remember back when we moved out of our house in 2013 in Coventry, you were able to just put anything you wanted out there. I mean, with the limited availability in the landfill, that is a good thing, but it still could be our guys doing this, honoring the same stringent, you know, not just picking up anything. So I do like that portion.
The bulk pickup, to keep this town clean and cleaner and on a timely manner,
Yeah,
I think bulk pickup should be back in our hands.
I agree.
One way or another.
We would have more control over the situation.
You know, it's,
So let's make it
even if
happen.
it's 60,000, you know, personally, like I said, if you went during your shift, it can be picked up, there will be overtime, but even with the overtime, you're still gonna save that $58,000 a year. They're not gonna, you know, even if you went twice a month, 2 people on a truck, how many people you need well, let me ask you this, because this is where it's gonna get hairy. So, you have 2 people in on a Saturday, that means you gotta bring in a mechanic,
No.
the foreman, none of that, that's,
Well, the foreman, yeah, because that's contractual, he comes in for everything. But it'll be the foreman,
so at the
for
time,
bulk, you selling?
huh?
For bulk pickup?
Say bulk pickup on Saturdays, I wanna know.
If we do with the other foreman, a driver, and, the 2 laborers, it's probably still gonna be cheaper.
Can you get us a dollar amount on that,
What does the foreman need to come in for?
to say hi?
It's just contractual, that's, he has to come in for overtime.
What?
Yeah.
Is he in a truck?
No,
No.
well, he's in a truck, he could be in a truck if he wants to.
And, supervisors.
All right.
So if
All
I
right, I'm not
got,
clear, I'm not understanding
So
this.
that's where it's, might not be cheaper, that's,
Well,
No.
if you bring in a guy
No,
in,
we already worked it out the numbers, it is still cheaper.
all right, so
well, I wanna see 4 guys at
I just wanna make-
$58,000.
I just wanna make it,
I want you to show, prove that to me.
I just wanna see where I understand this right. All right. We have a truck going out. We have 2 people on a truck going to pick up bulk pickup. If we have 2 other people, then we should be able to run another truck. Correct? If we have 4 people coming in and 2 people going
but
on
in
the
the
truck,
contract
it's
says
simple
they
math.
don't run the truck.
No, 2 guys, 1 guy drives the truck, 2 laborers, right, and then a foreman, that's
Right,
4
so
people. The foreman doesn't get behind the wheel and start driving everybody around. The laborers are on the truck and you have 1 driver. Now, a few years ago, we tried to, and when Kevin Reyes was the president, we tried to make everybody drivers laborers, so there's no disparaging or no saying who's who. So that way there, we can avoid that headache, because you have a driver and a laborer, and I've seen it, I've sent pictures to Freddie.
And you
The
probably
driver
could get
gets
away
out.
with that, too. You probably could put the 2 crews.
But this has to be on,
Driver and
has to
labor.
be on Saturdays?
No,
I
it
mean,
doesn't
it can't just be part of like a, it
Part
can't
of
be
the
like
job.
on a, I mean,
I'm not,
and then if some, one day it happens to add to some overtime on a shift where they're 2 hours extra, that's still not
Yeah,
like a
as
full
long as
set,
it
I
can be
mean,
justified.
but you gotta look at who's got what responsibilities down there now, which would be Freddie's job to get back to us on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, does he have the manpower to man that truck, is the question.
Well, the thing is, during the week, it's gonna be so.
But you
it's
tell
gonna be a
them,
lot
you're the
harder.
boss.
It's gonna be a lot harder during the week because we have so much other stuff that we have to take care of, you know.
But we can also look at where a Monday through Friday job, you can, if you have a new hiree, their job is on a Saturday to pick up, and there'd be no overtime.
Oh, you hire him Tuesday through Saturday? But we're not gonna.
Whatever way you want.
But we're not gonna, Angela, I believe we should have Tuesday through Saturday shifts, I believe we should have nighttime shifts, I think.
Well, that's
a lot
something
of
for
things.
us to look at also.
But again, you gotta look, you said hire a new person, based upon contract rules, okay? You got that 1 person who's a new guy, who's not getting overtime because he's Tuesday through Saturday, but you still got 3 other people that need to come in, which is a driver, a laborer, and a foreman.
But it's either they agree or they don't get the work. You keep it contracted. So if you want 2 positions or a position, whatever you need, it's either go or no. Either we take it back or we keep it privatized. So you eliminate 2 guys and we don't have Tuesday through Saturday job. So it's a win-win situation for you guys. If not, keep it the way it is. You get nothing.
I could work some numbers.
Can you do the math?
I mean, it's simple. Either you want to do it or you don't get the work and we give it out. So you want more money in the department,
Have my guys
you
do.
want 2 more guys, then they work with us or they don't work at all. There's no negotiating, yes or no.
Kristen, can we take a look at the disparity between 2015 and 2019? I know a couple $100,000 is probably the bins, but if you do the 3% clause, you know, that should be going up like 21,000 a year, not 120,000. So it looks like in 15 is when we privatized. 16, we might have been paying for bins there.
Yeah.
So can you see how many more years we owe on bins? Because next year you might see this reduced by 200,000.
So we started paying on bins at fiscal year 16, we ended 20.
So we got 2 more years of bins.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why you're seeing that up there. in that price. But again, 700,000 to even 1 million doesn't add up to 3%.
No.
No, we went through the numbers, it's not 3%, it's more than 3%.
But how does the contract say 3%?
It's 3% for just the trash recycling pickup.
What did we add extra? That's the questions I have.
Yeah, you added bulk, you added all the containers that we rent around town.
Containers,
All the dumpsters. The mega picks up, they pick up by the ball fields, they pick up by here,
Arctic.
you know what I mean? Yeah. And
You
it's
still
a lot
had
of
2 to
pickup.
add to Phoenix, which was a
And we
year
just-
ago.
Yeah, and.
You ordered the bins and they
They've
came
been
in.
ordered, by the way. They were just ordered, so.
So we've added other pickups in there, because they pick up the Arctic trash in front of them.
Again, we could give it back.
I would love in a few years to just take the whole thing back over.
Yeah, where you gonna get the trucks?
I would lease the truck.
They did what they did to Warwick. They got rid of all the trucks, and then they went up, tripled their price, or doubled their price, and Ernie probably can recall
I
that.
mean, we can lease, one on Bandits, and then I'll do it.
One guy per truck,
Right,
not 3.
right,
Remember, we did that one year. We
Yeah.
went down to 2 and it became a havoc.
you know, but let our guys do it.
All right, we'll look at that.
We're stuck for 2 more years no matter what, right?
Yeah, we're stuck for 2 years, so, but you guys can focus. Jay and John can definitely focus, because they're here for 2 more years, at least. Any other questions for Freddie?
I'd like to bring something up.
Freddie?
It just, well, yeah, for Freddie, but the question of, and again, I'm looking at numbers. When I've looked at this, I've taken people out of it. We've gone without an assistant director. Freddie's interim director right now for DPW. We've gone without an assistant director really for all the time that Dave Lombari was out and all the time that he's been out, that he retired. So that's 6 months going forward. And that's also shared with the Civic Center. And Parks. Do we need an assistant DPW director?
I will say, at this point, yes. And the reason being is, when storms were here.
Nothing's personal, please.
No.
I'm just questioning this because we've gone so
Here's my
long
reasons.
without it.
My reasons behind it. I've watched Dave Lombari years ago, without Freddie as a assistant director, work so many hours straight through storms, burn him right out. We burnt him out through the winter months. And he can't be on the road every single day following guys where Freddie's able to do so as an assistant director. Yes, you do have a foreman, but sometimes you gotta keep the foreman in check. And when Dave Lombari's up here working with HR or working with who's running the hen house? The tail's wagging the dog down there sometimes.
Well, that's where you have foremen.
I just said, you gotta sometimes keep the foreman in check, because the foreman could be buddy-buddy with everybody and let them do what they want. You definitely need an assistant in place. And I know, Chief, I know where you're going with this.
Well, that's part of,
So it's good,
well,
it's good for one, but it's not good for the other. And I know what you're saying, because I'm against them both. And again, nothing personal. You give to one, you give to 2, or you give to neither one of them.
and, well, the thing is, when we had conversations, Chief, last year for hours about the assistant to the chief to Chief Barris, and I was for it, just given the amount of men. And then when you looked at my first budget last year, you look at the amount of employees DPW has, and there's an assistant, and here's the chief, kind of by himself, trying to keep.
There's a situation that, and Chief and I had some in-depth conversations about this. What DPW doesn't have is 4 battalion directors. He has 4 battalion chiefs. Unfortunately, they only work 2 days a week also. And they don't do what I think they could be utilized for, or they're not being utilized for what they should be doing. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. And that's what he and I were going back and forth.
They're line officers, Dave, they're not administrative.
And I understand. And
Right now, I should be at the Cranston Public Library also. I have nobody there.
And again, if that's the case,
Why couldn't
then
we put
the
something
chief
there
over
all
there
the
needs an
time?
assistant chief over in the police department, but he relies on his two majors.
He has 2 administrative day guys, yes.
So, I mean, unfortunately.
Joe, you
that-
can forget, you're not getting any more money, so
I didn't ask for anything.
I'm just saying. But I see your point.
I'm not arguing the point, it's just what you can afford. I mean, Freddie's overtime, for storms and everything else, and drain laying and whatever else, any emergency, floods, whatever goes on, coming in at 2 in the morning, their overtime's budgeted $150,000 at the same, with that many people. You know, and they got vacation time, they got sick time, they got everything too. The only thing is, they don't have minimum man. So that feeds Angelo's case. That's the big difference. Any other questions for Freddie? Thank you, Freddie.
I'm just gonna stay up here.
Parks and Rec?
Just a glutton, aren't you?
I don't know, I'm trying to find it.
Parks and Rec.
It's 32.
32.
All right. I mean, this is like a minuscule department. I mean, 3 people from March to November. Is that how it works? March,
April 1st.
April 1st through November 31st, November 30th.
Wait, I mean, that,
So what
I mean, I
happens
know-
is, right, so Parks and Rec, they have, so some of their budgets in here, you'll see the salaries down because the salaries go over to DPW. 2 people, December 1st, go back to DPW.
all right, so, because I mean, I know Duffy was, all right, that's,
Yeah.
And
So
then
so
the 3rd one stays.
in the summertime, I lose 2 people.
okay,
You know?
gotcha, I understand.
Oh.
Again, overtime.
I talked to Tony Duffy at length,
Yeah.
and I'm very familiar with the job and his position. And when you set out on a project which takes 4 guys to do, and he's one, I mean, it's gonna take you, you know, instead of taking you 4 hours, it's gonna take you a lot longer than that, because you after 4 hours, you're tired, it's gonna take you extra time. I can understand why we have the overtime, but what I'd like to do is to add 2, I'm gonna call them green season people, from April 1st, we'll say July 1st, July, August, September, April, May, June, to go coincide with the budget. So for 6 months, at just say, I'm just throwing these numbers out, say 32 hours a week, you can put them wherever you want. Doesn't have to be Monday through Thursday or Thursday through Sunday. You can maneuver them wherever you want, at say $15 an hour. You get rid of the overtime, which, and here's my thinking with this, cut $55,000 down to $6,000, which gives you $1,000 a month in overtime for Parks
But
and
again,
Recreation.
all this overtime was supposed to have been eliminated.
Angelo, the Parks and Rec, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you can get me under $55,000 with 3 people of overtime through
Dave,
April till,
But
Angelo.
What was the order that was brought down by this council to our interim town manager, which was Mark
This isn't-
Carullo at the time?
But Angelo, this is for next year's budget.
I'm
This
just
isn't-
saying,
How do you
I'll
call
get into
overtime
it
with
more.
storms? For essential matters, yes, no overtime. Okay, a storm just happened on a Saturday, so we don't bring anybody
that
in
was
because
an
it's
emergency,
overtime.
that wasn't 55,000.
No, I'm
Okay.
So
but
anyway,
Angelo, we've had 7
I'll have my
storms. It
end,
adds
at the
up.
end of this, when you start doing the cutting, then I'll explain.
so what I'd like to do, and I'd like to throw this out there, is cut the, and again, look at the numbers, cut the 55,000 to 6. Hire 2 green season guys, which is, say, roughly around, just say $25,000 combined. So we're saving $30,000, around $30,000. And what I talked about before with the animal shelter was, if we had the facility manager, and then we have the Parks and Recreation foreman as the next person in line, everybody else would fall under them. So we would actually have, at times, when the ice rink on first shift, when the schedule's already done, and there's no people in the building on first shift, you utilize that first shift person who's there 40 hours a week, however you need. It could be outdoor, you could take the recreation staff, if you have a project indoor, the whole recreation staff, and bring them in, get the job done, and move on to the next one. It just gives you more bodies, because that's the complaint that I'm hearing is we don't have enough people. So you bring in the people, you utilize what you have, and it's, to me, it's all a matter of scheduling.
Well.
So it makes sense.
Well, first thing I would say is we'd have to look and see, over 20 hours is considered full-time under our union contract. So at that point, is this going to be potentially a union position? So those are things we'd have to look at. And getting back to your first question,
You said
first comment,
over 20 hours.
I believe over 20 hours is,
Hire 3 guys at 15 hours. I mean,
That's what I just said, like, for instance, he said 32.
Yeah.
So, in other words, hire 4 guys at
Yeah.
15 hours a week.
yeah, simple, right around
Yeah,
it.
but what do you get for, for 15 hours a week, you're gonna get a kid. You're gonna get an 18-year-old kid who wants maybe you're not gonna get a high school kid. You're gonna get a college kid, maybe 15 hours a week, maybe.
There's no evening hours essentially, right? So.
Well, it could be,
Can't
that'd be
They-
based
they-
on
that
wait a
way,
minute,
because
they-
we
let
get a
me
professional
clarify.
during the day who's looking for
They
part-time
have,
hours.
in the summertime, they have a person who works 3 to 11, correct?
Who's that?
Um,
For Box and Rec?
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
we have somebody that does.
So,
He's on the flex shift.
yeah, he's on a flex shift, he covers the second shift to go around to these ball fields at night, shut the lights off, turn them on, do whatever. And I will say, he's cutting grass with the lights on, he's working. I told you guys before, I've been down those ball fields all hours of the night, till 11 o'clock at Ray Silva, till 9 o'clock at Manor Field. And
But
they're always working
And it's
somewhere.
always good to have somebody there in case anything happens.
I agree. So you could make the positions 19 and a half hours a week, correct? If you have to play the game, 19 and a half hours a
But
week.
what happened, we're forgetting, what happened last year when one of the complex guys, union guys, was supposed to be turned over to the Parks? What happened with that deal?
What, turn off the box, what do you mean?
One of the union workers at the complex in the summertime was supposed to be turned over to Parks and Recreation for the summer. That's where we were filling that spot to stop the overtime when our previous town manager was here. That's what he told. None of these guys would know. Dave would know.
I don't recall entering from
Oh,
the
well,
Civic Center.
look it up.
From the Civic Center?
Yes.
Why can't it be done?
And it was
I'm
supposed to
having a
have
tough
been
time
done.
recalling that, Angelo, but
No, I don't
why
recall
couldn't,
that one.
so in other words, I know personally that Civic Center slows down in the summer. There's no ifs and no buts about it, because every league goes to the outdoors, soccer, whoever. Now, in my opinion only, that part-timers can handle that summer up there, and you have 2 individuals that, and I'm not sure, are we keeping the ice rink open all summer?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 2 individuals who work the ice rink, but you also have another, is there another full-timer up there besides those 2?
No.
There's just Josh and
And Doug.
Doug. Doug's the supervisor of 1.
Of nobody.
1.
You're a first shift supervisor, supervising 0 people. And
But
0
you're not
people,
supervising, you give him direction, you still give him direction.
for
but
0 people in the building.
Yeah, but he does all the scheduling, he's a supervisor for the Civic Center up there.
So
Jay, I think-
I don't come
I
that,
think
I
what we
don't
need
come
to
from
do-
that. That's why. I don't understand how,
Jay, I think, well, let me cut you off. I
Yeah.
think you and I need to sit down with Ernie, Freddie, and possibly the union president and discuss our restructure and how we want to restructure this for this budget within the next week.
there's a lot of overtime at the, again, listen, I'm not begrudging anybody to pick up an overtime shift. at all. You know, if it's out there, anybody on the planet, if it's out there and you don't take it, then I think there's something wrong, because it's not out there all the time. But, you know, I'm looking at a 3.5% tax increase as a councilman, and I'm not for it, because I know people can't afford it. So I'm looking at any way we can just to crunch numbers a little bit, and every $5,000-$10,000 helps. So that's where I'm coming from, and I don't understand how there's overtime at the Civic Center. I mean, at the ice rink. I just can't picture the amount of there's a lot of overtime.
tell
These
you
people that keep texting, come
Wait.
on to the meeting and give us your thoughts. I can't be on my phone all
I'll
day.
clarify how it happens. I'll clarify very clear how it happens, okay? You had a show there just a couple weeks ago, boxing event. Everybody got text, we need you to work tonight. None of the part-timers got a 1 day, a 2 day, maybe even a 3 day notice, I need you for Saturday and Sunday, because there was no proper scheduling going on. So what's that do? That makes all the union employees, full-timers, now get the overtime because they gotta cover that event. Because the part-timers couldn't cover it without proper notice.
Yeah, but shouldn't that be covered from the event?
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
That should be zero from the town. If they want to have
No,
the
because
whole
now you got your
department come in.
part-timers who get paid $15 an hour, and you get your full-timers who are now getting
Yeah, and they've already said-
overtime.
and they've already
Straight
said-
overtime, because they already put in their 40 hours, or 36 and a half, or whatever it is, and they're already putting in for
But that's a
overtime. So it's-
scheduling issue, though.
That's what
That's a
you just said.
scheduling
That's
issue.
your scheduler. I just said, your one person supervisor schedules.
If one
Was
guy
that,
don't
all
wanna
right,
work
was
overtime.
that person scheduling, was that person on shift?
Yes, he was.
We got a problem.
Yeah.
Because I can't, I tell you, there's
There's a lot
no,
of problems up
there's
there,
no
but nobody
answer
realizes.
that anybody can give me to
Well, we're gonna
justify
find out
the
this
amount of
budget.
overtime that's going on at the ice rink. When you have, according to you, Fred.
Freddie, who worked
and I
the
asked
boxing
you-
event? You
well,
ready?
hang on one second. When you have first shift, I understand Monday through Friday. You have second shift, Tuesday through Saturday, right, which is 3 to 11. So the only open shifts you have are a Saturday morning for Saturday first shift,
And Sunday night.
2 Sundays, right, Sunday first and second, a Monday and a Monday night. And you have, according to the numbers, you have 2 part-timers to cover those shifts.
If
So-
they can't work,
But if they can't work, then find somebody else.
That's it,
That's the job,
exactly.
it's 2 shifts a week.
What happens when the police or the fire call someone in for overtime? You go down a list. Freddie can't come, Ernie can't come, Angelo can't come.
Where's
You
the
got
list
David,
come from?
John.
We gotta create a list, we need to
You
create
create
a
it.
pool of,
if those
That's
part-timers
management.
can't work, it has to go.
Well, let me tell you something.
but you know the
Not
schedule.
part-time.
Hold on, gentlemen. We've already gone through this, all right? You've already rectified there needs to be a schedule 2 weeks in advance. Because I'll tell you what, if I'm a part-time guy, and you're calling me on a Friday to work a Saturday, and I've already made plans, I'm sorry, gentlemen,
Yeah, that's-
I'm going out.
Yeah, but
And
the
and that
schedule
part-
could
but
be,
that's how the boxing event happened. And that, a lot of people don't know that, okay? The other thing is, Freddie, give me the list of names who worked the boxing event.
Doug, Josh, Deb Graham, and I think there was 2 part-timers there.
Imagine that,
but why isn't that covered
5
from
people.
the event, though? That should cost us
Did
0.
we get reimbursed for that?
No, because we didn't schedule that, gentlemen. We didn't have, listen, the person who schedules the event and the person who does the schedule are 2 different people. So here,
Well, then we're doing something wrong.
So
right?
that's my case for a facility manager, right there. Eliminate
that's why I said, we need to
eliminate
get- we
ninety
need to
percent
get
of that
together.
overtime.
That's why I said, we need to get together.
Right.
and
Because
sit
when,
down and
because when we
discuss.
charge for that event, we're
Because
not charging
the
them
tail
proper,
is
right?
wagging the dog up there, plain and simple.
And I don't care union, non-union, I'm looking at the position and efficiency.
Budget for box. That's
Huh?
it.
Well, it goes
Because
hand in
It
hand.
goes hand in hand, and we're trying to make it go hand in hand.
Yeah.
We're trying to put it all into one. And that way
And-
there, you have, and Councilman Licciardi talked to me in length last week about this, and he and I are on the same page on this particular item. And we think between the dog pound, and that's what I had to confirm, and I confirmed it here tonight, was that the dog officers are in the same union, so there's no
Yep.
union issues. Parks and Rec, and then we need to reclassify, and who goes what, and how, you know, that, I know that has to do with a little bit of negotiation.
Yeah, with that would eliminate the $5,000 going. You would have nothing to do with parks, Fred. Same thing with the chief, nothing to do with the animal shelter, unless you're it's working together.
Because
But
in
their,
my,
but their base wouldn't be part of your issue.
my opinion again, 3 years ago, when we decided we're taking that back over, and it was a cluster. between, and I'm not saying it was a cluster between, to me, it was a cluster between the person who rented it, the town, nobody overseeing anything up there. It was a cluster. I was a proponent to take it back, and I was very happy to take it back, because I know it can be a revenue generator for this town, okay?
Yeah.
But it becomes an abusive thing, just like the reason why we privatized it the first time. And now it's coming back again. It's coming back to bite us in the rear end, get an abusive overtime, abuse of who's doing what, who should be doing what, who's taking what, who's leaving the building with what. It's ridiculous up there, okay? There's no oversight. And Freddie, you can't be there, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and
No.
we've discussed this. You can't be there from 6 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. That's their hours of operation.
Unless you wanna
Okay?
be.
In my opinion, the person who's up there renting the facility and showcasing the facilities should be up there. The secretary, I think it should go back to the old way. Put the secretary down in DPW so you can keep an eye on what's going on up there. That's just my opinion. That's the way it used to be. Maybe go that route, so you know what's going on, and then you can utilize them down there also for other things that they can help each other.
The issue that's kind of muddy, Ernie, is
Right.
because we're looking at a budget and an enterprise fund, and it's, what I think is muddy is because it's like a little bit of what Dave was saying, but to me that doesn't make any sense. Because you have
Oh.
part salary coming from one, part salary coming from the other.
Well, I agree that needs to be more oversight at the Civic Center and the recreation area. I agree completely. The animal shelter, well, that's sort of a different situation, but again, clearly oversight needs to be enhanced there, because one person with a title can't be there and oversee. So I agree with you. I agree with the suggestion that we should just have a meeting and discuss this on how this can work, because there are many issues. For example, we mentioned union positions, job descriptions. Job descriptions right now indicate that, are written that the ACOs report to the day shift lieutenant. Job descriptions have to be negotiated. They can't be changed unilaterally. That has to be negotiated. All the union positions report to at the Civic Center, at the Rec Center report to the Recreation Director, not DPW or facility manager. So I agree that we need to do things differently there. It is broken. We need to fix it. And I agree that we need to sit down and figure out the best way to do that. And certainly do need to have a discussion with our representation from our local union on how to do that. But it is broken. It needs to be fixed. And I agree with you completely.
Any other questions for Parks and Rec? Thank you, Freddie.
I'll say one more.
Town engineer? That's you?
Yeah.
You got a certificate of an engineer?
Yeah.
I think it's
You
more
do?
than a certificate.
Maybe he took an online class.
Yeah.
Freddie was going to college, actually.
What page is that?
25. Everything the same in this, from last year.
Basically, we use a consultant. Any questions on that? Thank you, Freddie.
We only spent $514 so far, right?
Actual, yep, till January. But springtime's coming, so I imagine we'll be using a little bit of engineering services.
Yeah. Usually that's when usually the time we use it.
Zoning.
28.
28.
Thank you, Freddie.
Basically,
You zoning too?
this is the zoning board, this is the zoning board.
Right.
Review.
It's all set. Any questions on that? It's basically the clerk, payroll, taxes, professional services, and agenda management streaming.
Benefits.
Human resources.
What page?
I'm looking.
Page 9.
just general wages drop out of
Right.
there?
Right, the recommendation from the department was level funding, current staffing level. My recommendation is to eliminate the part-time position in the human resource and make the executive assistant in the town manager's office full-time. I was surprised when I came that we have a part-time person for the manager's office as executive assistant, executive secretary. All the manager's office that I've been involved in and executive office have a full-time person there. Now that I'm more acclimated here, I'm giving that person more and more to do, spending more and more time as the assistant, executive assistant to the manager. I believe it's an essential position to be full-time. I'm giving the person more research to do, more assistance to me. And in order to be a more productive office, I believe that I need a full-time person. To have a part-time person in the manager's office, leaving half of the time not there, certainly is not assisting the public when they come in, and it's not assisting me. So my recommendation is to eliminate the part-time position in human resources, make the manager's executive secretary, executive assistant a full-time position.
Does that clear up any grievances?
Potentially, there is a grievance about that position being a union position. My intention is to continue on with that and see that to the conclusion as far as being a union position, a non-union position. But I do believe that this is necessary for the effective running and administration of the manager's office. It was full-time before. I don't know why it was changed.
Well, I'll tell you why it was changed. Our previous town, well, not previous, the one before, Jim Thomas was our town manager, and they couldn't find 35 hours of work. So he come up with the idea of a part-timer, and there was no benefits. And he had quite a bit to do also, because he came in like you and had his hands full. And we had numerous discussions where there's not 35 hours worth of work if you give them a job description and what they have to do. And I know Elaine also took calls, which she didn't have to, but she always did. And now we're at another position. There's very little cuts. And when the HR director was talked about, it was supposed to be half for us and half for the schools, and the school department didn't want it. So our previous town manager put a full-time HR director on, which that also has to be in question when we're looking at the budget for cuts. So I'll have the more facts that I have. I thought it was in last year's paper here, but it wasn't, and I can't see hiring another position full-time, which you're gonna give benefits.
Angelo, he's not adding a position to.
You're eliminating a part-time in one department
They were part-time in both, though.
and putting it in another one. But if you remember right, when we had a floater, they were gonna go from the clerk's office to the tax assessor's office.
Which we still have.
I mean, you still can have management rights without making another union position. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, we're not.
Yeah, this is a non-union position
I
right now.
understand. But when you hire a full-time, we have to pay for the benefits, which should be cost savings to us, which is not. It's putting another burden on the department.
Well, the position is full-time now, so it'd be, rather than splitting it, it would be exclusively in the manager's office. And if
But
another
I wanna
department,
see what they would be doing in the 35 hours that they're working. How they're gonna make up 35 hours a week of answering phones, doing some things that you say. I wanna know what you're gonna do more than 2 town managers ago didn't do. That's what I wanna see before I'd even consider this. But as of right now, I'm totally against it. My opinion, but when the cuts come, they'll come.
But she's occupying the 20 hours. And she needs more time at this point? Is it
Yeah,
because of
basically,
budget
yeah.
season?
Yeah,
Or is
it-
it just that you foresee?
I foresee more utilization of that position in my office. Again, I'm giving the person more and more to do. When I first got here, really didn't give that person that much. Now that I'm more acclimated, I'm giving the executive assistant more and more to do. And I foresee that being a full-time job in the manager's office, to assist the manager in performance of his duty, my duty, so.
This is before me, but maybe you guys can answer. Because I guess town manager and human resources are going hand in hand. What did we do? Who handled the human resources
So,
before we had a
town
human
manager.
resource director?
So here's what happened, and this is, and I know Councilman Giroux and myself were big proponents of an HR person. First of all, a couple of different things happened. Our HR person was a union representative at the time, okay? And we felt as a council that, and I think Angela was on board with that, that should not be a union position. That person, it should be a confidential position. They're in the union dealing with their own union.
Went to the hospital.
So that happened. We for years wanted to make that a non-union position. Now, when the town manager, which was Fred at the time, he was dealing with, and department heads were dealing with employee matters that, I'm gonna call it Monty Hall, up at Town Hall. And prior to Fred, when Wolfgang Bauer was here, you'd have employees up there, let's make a deal. You know, got a guy on an injury, we're gonna settle. They should not, a town manager needs to be focused on working the budget, working with the town, working with businesses, working with their department heads to run their department. They were spending on average 10 to 20 hours a week dealing with personnel matters. Just headaches. You could not walk into town manager's office without having a labor issue or something going
So
on.
what's the qualifications, if they're working that many hours, why is it not considered a union
Hold
position?
on, I'm talking about, he's asking who
Okay.
did it before.
I got
So the
it.
town manager was the HR director at the time.
Okay.
We had so much going on, we couldn't have that anymore. We needed something, and not only that, we needed a place for the employees and the department heads to have a place of confidentiality also. So in other words, if Chief Barris had an issue over at the fire department, okay, and he has an employee issue, he'd go to the town manager, who doesn't really know the laws, doesn't know the regulations, doesn't know anything about labor. Now,
That's why we had labor attorneys.
right, listen, paying an HR director and paying an attorney is two different expenses.
Alright.
So, at that point, we as a council said we wanted an HR director. Now, somewhere along the line, Fred added a part-time position into there, which was, I wanna say last year, last budget.
February of 2016.
And whether or not it should have been there or shouldn't have been there, is another whole story. Now, personally, this is the strangest thing, because some people really appreciate, I know department heads that I've talked to appreciate the HR director instead of having to talk to the town manager about personnel issues. I've talked to union presidents. One thinks it's a great thing, one says, I don't know if I like it or not. But again, I think an HR person should be in place to deal with HR issues, payroll issues, whatever it may be, healthcare, payroll, a fight breaks out down at DPW, you know, you gotta deal with that. The town manager should not be dealing with that, plain and simple. That's how the HR director came in, or the HR person.
But does that cover 35 hours of work a week? And
In this town, probably covers 70.
Well, let's have the proof.
Oh.
I wanna see it in black and white. What consists of a daily operations 5 days a week?
Well, that could be a job for Karen to give us, exactly.
That's
we
what I
work
like
on
to
a weekly
see.
basis.
Well, I was gonna say, do I get to speak?
You could speak, it's your turn.
I mean, I am the HR director, and if anybody thinks that I'm not busy, well, you stop by my office anytime. I will be happy to give you as many numbers and stats as you want.
Well, I'm asking you for it. You can
Oh, I
write
will.
it down what your job consists of
I will,
every day,
absolutely,
daily
yeah.
operations,
Absolutely,
and how long it takes you on a constant basis.
absolutely. And I'll include the weekends that I work as well. because my phone rings constantly. There are more problems. This was a complete runaway train when I came here. And just so you understand, the reason why I had a part-time person and then Fred had a part-time secretary when the position was vacated, we were trying to save money. And Fred was a town manager, that he was very self-sufficient. He liked to control everything in his office, so he really didn't need a full-time person. So we said, well, you know what, let's save some money, and rather than you having a full-time assistant and me having a full-time benefits coordinator, I'll be fine, you know, I'll take a part-time person, you take a part-time person. So that's what we did. We saved a position by doing that. And now, you know, Ernie has made the recommendation that he needs a full-time person. So the person who was with me part-time goes to him full-time now. So it's a wash.
So now
It's not costing you
take
anything.
on her duties.
Yes, exactly, which will probably lead to a grievance, because the union has filed that against me before for doing union work. But we feel that it's not union work, and that's why we have the situation we're in now with the Rhode Island Department of Labor. So we'll, you know,
Ernie,
we'll fight that fight.
Can you get the town council a list of grievances, please, of what we have outstanding? That's something I'd like to see.
When, how many,
And how much does
when
that
did it
grievance
happen?
cost?
That's what I want.
To file,
Huh?
somewhere in the neighborhood of
Yeah.
about 5,500.
For every grievance.
That's just a file.
That's not the fight.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly are in better shape than we've been at times. We have gone from 6 pages of work-related incidents when I got here. It was 6 pages long. We've cut that down. We're probably at about half a page. Maybe we have 4 people out, because we follow up on everybody. There's no such thing anymore. When I came to this town, it was just an atrocity that people were out. Nobody checked on them. You had an insurance company that said, oh, do you want us to see why they're out? Should they come back to work? Well, geez, yeah, that's your job. So until I put them to task, you know, they did nothing about it. So now, right, Chief? Back me up. Now I get them back to work. I make sure that we keep in contact. We see what's going on. You can't come back to work, maybe we'll try to do light duty. If we can't do light duty and there's something really wrong, then maybe we need an independent medical evaluation, which I run on a regular basis, to make sure whether or not somebody can come back to work. Maybe they shouldn't.
But we also have to practice what we preach.
Yeah, and what does that mean?
I'm just saying.
Well, I don't understand.
Don't do as I say, don't do as I do as I say.
Well, if you have a problem, then I think.
There's no problem right now. I'm just bringing up things that I want to see in the course of a day, what goes on, and I'd like to see phone records also, which are town property. I'm not talking, what?
No, I said, I don't know, Ernie's looking at me like, so.
Well, what
No, I'll.
kind of phone records?
When we get going.
Well,
we'll bring it up.
we're in the HR portion here.
So,
Yeah, I know, but when it comes time for cuts, we're gonna revisit every one of these.
You better start cutting now, because we're going through this twice.
We're gonna go through it again for the cuts.
I have a question on this for both of you, actually. If the administrative assistant, your administrative assistant, if you, I realize she'll be working directly for you, but she's right across the hall from you. So if you need her,
yeah, why does that have to be
we-
a 50-50 split? Why couldn't it be like 30 hours, 10 hours? Is that what you're getting to?
well, I'm getting to, if whatever job needs to get done, that's her role as an administrative assistant, whether it's working through for HR or for working for town manager.
But she will
Correct.
work at the direction of the town manager, so if he sees fit, you know, if
Right,
he's
all
okay
right.
with that, then that, you know, then that's fine. If he doesn't, he calls that shot.
Okay.
But obviously, she has some experience. in-
Right.
Right, right.
in
I mean,
HR.
clearly if a department needs some assistance, and there's time available, certainly that can be done. So that's certainly, reasonable and would be done. And again, she's across the hall, so.
Right.
Okay. Any questions for Karen? So Karen, you'll get us an update with notes of responsibilities and whatever.
Absolutely.
Tax assessor? Page? 20. Sal, welcome to your first budget.
In West Warwick.
In West Warwick, correct. Sal, you have the best overtime budget I've ever seen.
Zero,
200.
200. Just in case.
Any questions for Sal?
Bless you.
Thank you.
Can you wipe that off? Sal, you got off easy tonight. Want to give us an update of what's going on in your department?
Well, you approved the evaluation contract. I think we just wait for the law department to review it. The law department signs it. He's probably starting up sometime May, June-ish. If there's anything new, we're still putting numbers together for the budget, so even though we projected a levy based on the tax rate, I still have some outstanding work that's going to be completed within the next month and a half. Personal property is still being worked on. Most of their numbers, a lot of the, oh,
I'm sorry.
That's not gonna go now.
was everyone else, could they hear everyone else talking? Me, they can't hear? Personal property, a lot of the returns that weren't due until this past March 15th. So a lot of that has to be accounted for going through. It'll take another month to do that.
Just out of curiosity, I'm looking at general wages. When I go by a couple of times a month, there's usually two people in there. I only see, is that two people or one
We have a person and a half. We have the deputy assessor.
in the floater? So
And we
where's
have
that
the floater.
salary coming out of? Is that in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They were in last year too, weren't they?
And half in building, right?
Please.
Kristen, half in building? Right, okay. So how long is the evaluation gonna take, do you foresee?
Well, they were going to review the last half of 2017 sales. They'll have to review all of the 2018 sales, at least up until October, November at that time. They have to go out and any new construction that's going up, they review. We send out income and expense questionnaires to all of the commercial entities. That has to all be reviewed. Normally, letters would go out to people in January sometime, maybe late January. Hearings, February, March.
Okay.
So it takes, it'll take a year. I mean, it won't be done until the budget is finalized a year from now.
Okay,
Next year's budget.
thank you.
And I think that was one of the biggest increases in the budget is the
158,000.
revaluation expense, but we're getting 80% of that number back.
That'll be in the revenue side of
Yes.
the budget. So really, what it looks like, on here, it looks like his budget inflated by 158,000, but take that 80% of that 158, we're getting that on the revenue side. So it's probably about 38,000 without a calculator in hand. Any questions for Sal?
No.
Sal, the part-timer, can't think of,
Our contractor,
yeah.
Anthony.
How many hours a week do we use him?
He works anywhere between 2 full days, one and a half to 2 full days a week. He'll come in mornings, Monday through Thursday. He's here more, spend a little more time during the busy time and not as much time during the times when it's slow. Like right now, he'll go through all these statements that are coming through, so he spends a lot more time here this time of year. Summer not so much, but then late fall, he'll do a tour of the town. He'll actually go street to street, checking on all the different businesses that are in or moved or new coming in, along with the business licenses that we work with.
Any questions for Sal? Thank you.
Stay for the next one.
Board of Assessment Review,
What page?
that's gonna be page
21.
21.
Next page.
It's all the same, too.
Very simple, 2196.
This one here, there's still a vacancy on the board, and with revaluation coming through, it tends to drive the appeals up. So I don't know, not so much for the billing period that's happening now, but definitely for next year. I don't know if there's term limits or not on any of the, but
Yeah, I think it's every 2 or 3. Board of Assessment? that's
Couple years.
Every couple of years.
I think it's every 3 years.
3?
I could be wrong, but.
We'll have to take a look at that.
So
Yeah,
I know
3
one-
years.
Yeah, I know one gentleman's been there for a while. The other young lady's, she's kind of new, but she seemed to know what's going on.
I think
But,
there's one opening, right?
yeah, there's still one opening.
One
So
opening.
we wanna try to get that.
It's
Feels
been
like-
advertised, though, I
Alright.
mean,
You know,
I talked to him and asked him, try to, get an appraiser or, some banking business, anyone, I don't know if, anyone from Centerville.
I know. though.
Someone young, someone new that lives in town.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. All right, we'll have to take a look at that. Thank you, Sal.
No, I think it's 3. 3 year.
Last but not least for tonight, Town Manager. Okay, John. Page 7.
Yes, again, the big change would be going from a part-time to full-time executive assistant. The person is now split with Human Resources, so the recommendation is to have a full-time executive assistant in the manager's office.
Any questions for the Town Manager? None? Pretty cut and dry?
Next
All
work-
set.
Next workshop is next Tuesday, 6 to
The
9, correct?
27th at 6.
27th. So next Tuesday is, we have our council meeting tomorrow night.
And
No
tomorrow's-
budget hearing tomorrow, right?
No
No,
budget
no,
hearing
no, but
tomorrow.
it's- but
We have an
executive
executive
session at
session.
6. Right.
6 o'clock.
6
Everything's
o'clock.
at 6.
I emailed everyone today.
Yeah, I'm confirming, I just want to confirm everything.
And next week, 6 o'clock will be our next budget hearing. And it'll be the remaining departments. Any questions? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
There are people, usually they don't oppose anything.
Yeah, we're adjourned. You want to schedule that meeting?
Yeah. Could be sooner than later.